The most confusing part of avoidant attachment is not always the distance itself. It is the timing. They do not always pull away when things are bad. They do not always go cold after a fight. They do not always disappear when you have done something wrong. Sometimes they pull away right when you finally relax. Right when your body starts to breathe again. Right when you think, maybe we are okay now. Maybe they are here. Maybe I can stop measuring every text, every pause, every shift in tone, every change in energy. And then suddenly, they become different. Less warm, less available, less present. The same person who made you feel close yesterday now feels hard to reach today. And because the timing is so cruel, your mind starts blaming you. You wonder if you got too comfortable. You wonder if you showed too much need. You wonder if you said something wrong after they finally opened up. You wonder if the closeness was fake. But the brutal truth is this. Many avoidants do not pull away because the connection was meaningless. They pull away because the connection started feeling real enough to touch the part of them that does not know how to stay relaxed inside closeness. This does not excuse the behavior. It does not make the confusion less painful. It does not mean you should keep accepting a pattern that hurts your nervous system. But it explains the timing. It explains why the pullback often comes after softness, not before it. It explains why they can act tender, present, interested, even emotionally moved, and then, suddenly, behave like the whole thing became too much. For an anxious person, closeness often feels like relief. For an avoidant person, closeness can create relief at first, then pressure, then fear, then the need to escape the emotional weight they helped create. That is the part most people miss. The same moment that makes you finally feel safe may be the moment their system starts scanning for danger. If this kind of clarity helps your nervous system settle, subscribe. PsychBond is a daily decoder for psychology, relationships, and avoidant and anxious attachment patterns, so you stop guessing. Now, let us go into the real reason this happens, because if you only look at the surface, it looks insane. They were warm, then they were cold. They wanted you close, then they acted trapped. They gave you a reason to trust them, then they punished the trust by becoming distant. But under the surface, avoidant attachment often carries a deep conflict. They want connection, but they are not always able to tolerate the emotional demands that come after connection. They may enjoy the moment. They may like the chemistry. They may mean the affection while they are giving it. They may even feel more than they are willing to say. But the moment closeness begins to imply continuity, responsibility, expectation, or emotional visibility, their body may stop reading the bond as comfort and start reading it as pressure. That switch can happen fast. It can happen after a beautiful night. It can happen after a vulnerable conversation. It can happen after they say something that makes you feel chosen. It can happen after intimacy, after consistency, after a deeper look, after a long call, after they show up in a way that makes your heart settle. The anxious person experiences that moment as proof that the bond is becoming safer. The avoidant person may experience the same moment as proof that the bond is becoming harder to control. That is why the timing feels backward. To you, closeness means we are finally okay. To them, closeness can mean, now something may be expected of me. Now I may be needed. Now I may have to keep showing up. Now my freedom may shrink. Now I may disappoint someone. Now I may be seen too clearly. Now I may not be able to disappear without hurting them. And when those thoughts are not conscious, They do not say, "I am scared because this started to matter." They just feel a heaviness, a tightness, a need for space, a sudden irritation, a strange numbness, a wish to be alone, a pull toward distraction, a feeling that something is wrong, even when nothing obvious happened. Then they interpret that body signal as truth. They think, maybe I need distance. Maybe this is too intense. Maybe I am not sure. Maybe I do not feel the same. Maybe I should slow this down. And because avoidance systems often trust relief more than reflection, the moment they step back and feel calmer, they believe the distance proved something. They do not always ask, "Why did closeness scare me right after I wanted it?" They often ask, "Why do I feel better when I pull away?" That is one of the most damaging parts of the pattern. They confuse the relief of escaping emotional demand with the truth about the relationship. Pulling away feels calming, so they treat the calm as evidence. But relief is not always wisdom. Sometimes, relief is just the nervous system avoiding growth. Sometimes, relief is the body returning to the familiar place where nobody can ask for anything, nobody can see too much, nobody can depend on them, and nobody can make them feel exposed. This is why they can miss you and still not move closer. This is why they can care and still become distant. This is why they can feel a bond and still protect themselves from the next step. The pullback is not always a lack of feeling. Sometimes it is a lack of tolerance for what feeling requires. Avoidants often do better with moments than with ongoing closeness. A moment can be controlled. A moment can be entered and exited. A moment can feel intense, romantic, emotional, even honest, without forcing them to keep showing up every day after. But continuity is different. Continuity means the connection has a next chapter. It means the warmth has consequences. It means the other person may relax and expect some emotional steadiness. It means the avoidant cannot just enjoy closeness as a private experience. They now have to deal with what their closeness did to you. That is where many avoidants panic. They may like making you feel special in the moment, but once they see that you actually softened, trusted them, or became more open, the bond starts to feel less like freedom and more like responsibility. Again, this does not make their retreat fair. It is not fair to help someone relax and then disappear. It is not fair to create emotional safety and then act like the other person invented it. But it is often what happens when someone wants intimacy but has not learned how to handle the aftercare of intimacy. They know how to create closeness better than they know how to maintain it. They know how to lean in when desire is leading. They know how to open up when the moment feels natural. They know how to be tender when there is no demand attached. But when the moment ends and the relationship now has to hold the weight of that closeness, their system starts looking for an exit. This is why the anxious person feels blindsided. You are not reacting to nothing. You are reacting to a real shift. Your body noticed that the emotional temperature changed. It noticed that the person who helped you lower your guard suddenly raised theirs. And that is a specific kind of pain, because it trains you to fear peace. You start learning that every calm moment might be followed by withdrawal. You stop trusting warmth because warmth has become the thing that comes before distance. You stop relaxing fully because relaxation starts to feel dangerous. That is how an avoidant pattern can slowly make an anxious person more anxious. It is not just that they leave. It is that they leave after you finally believe it is safe to breathe. One of the deeper reasons this happens is that avoidant attachment often links dependence with danger. Not always in obvious words. They may not walk around thinking, dependence is dangerous. But somewhere inside, the body learned that needing people, being needed, being emotionally visible, or being responsible for someone's feelings can feel unsafe. Maybe closeness once came with control. Maybe love came with pressure. Maybe care came with guilt. Maybe needing someone led to disappointment. Maybe being needed felt like being trapped. Maybe early relationships taught them that the safest way to survive was to stay self-contained. So when an adult connection starts to become emotionally alive, their old survival map wakes up. It does not ask whether you are actually trying to trap them. It does not ask whether this relationship is different. It reacts to the feeling of attachment itself. That is why their distance can feel so irrational. You may not have asked for anything. You may not have pressured them. You may not have demanded a label in that moment. You may simply have smiled more, softened more, trusted more, reached out with normal affection, or let your guard down. But to an avoidant nervous system, your relaxation can still register as a sign that the bond is becoming real. And real means harder to escape. Real means their choices matter. Real means they may hurt you. Real means they may have to explain themselves. Real means they may have to face their own limits. Real means they may have to stop pretending everything is casual while benefiting from emotional closeness. That is why the pull-away can come right after the good part. The good part is not always the solution. Sometimes the good part is the trigger. It shows them what is possible, then immediately shows them what may be required. Another reason avoidants pull away right when you finally relax is that your calm changes the emotional balance. When you are anxious, chasing, unsure, trying to win them, trying to read them, the avoidant may still feel in control. They can stay slightly above the bond. They can give little bits of closeness and still feel like they have room. They can decide the pace. They can receive your attention without fully committing to what it means. But when you relax, something changes. Your energy becomes more settled. You start acting like the connection is mutual. You stop auditioning. You begin to exist inside the bond instead of trying to earn your place in it. That can feel beautiful to a secure person. To an avoidant person who is used to keeping distance as control, it can feel like the connection has moved into a new phase. Suddenly, they are not just being admired, they are being trusted. They are not just being pursued, they are being received. They are not just giving enough to keep you hoping, they are being expected to behave like someone whose closeness means something. Your relaxation quietly asks a question they may not be ready to answer. Can you be steady now? And if the answer inside them is no, their body may create distance before they have to say it. This is why an avoidant can be more comfortable when you are slightly insecure than when you are calm. That sounds harsh, but it is often true. Your insecurity gives them room to stay defended. Your calm makes the bond feel more mutual. Mutuality means they can no longer hide behind your chasing. They have to face their own participation. They have to face the fact that they also created this. They also leaned in. They also enjoyed it. They also gave signals. They also made you feel safe. And that can create shame. Many avoidants do not only pull away from closeness, they pull away from the shame that appears after closeness. They may feel, I gave too much. I created an expectation. I do not know if I can keep this up. I do not want to be the bad person. I do not want to be responsible for their feelings. I do not want to have a conversation about what this means. Instead of naming that shame, they reduce contact. They become vague. They act busy. They seem emotionally flat. They minimize what happened. They may even rewrite the closeness as less important than it was. This is where the anxious person gets hurt twice. First, by the distance, then by the denial. Because not only did they pull away, they may act like you were wrong to feel the closeness in the first place. That is why this pattern messes with your mind. It does not just remove warmth. It makes you question whether the warmth was real. And the answer is often complicated. It may have been real in the moment, but not supported by enough emotional maturity after the moment. That is the brutal difference. Real feeling is not the same as reliable presence. Real chemistry is not the same as readiness. Real tenderness is not the same as the ability to keep showing up after tenderness creates trust. The avoidant may have meant the closeness, but if they cannot stay present when that closeness starts to matter, the result still hurts you. This is one of the most important points. Avoidant withdrawal often happens when the relationship moves from feeling-based to reality-based. In the feeling stage, everything can be beautiful. There is chemistry, there is longing, there is comfort, there is emotional charge. There are private moments that feel deeper than what they admit out loud. But real life asks different questions. Can this person communicate after closeness? Can they stay kind when they feel scared? Can they talk instead of disappearing? Can they handle your normal human response to their affection? Can they be honest about what they can and cannot offer? Can they stop taking emotional benefits while avoiding emotional clarity? This is where the avoidant pattern is exposed. Not when they are missing you, not when they are lonely, not when they feel safe because nothing is being asked. The pattern is exposed after the good moment, when your body finally relaxes and their body decides closeness has gone too far. This is why explanations matter, but excuses do not. Understanding why they pull away can help you stop personalizing every shift. It can help you stop believing you ruined the closeness by enjoying it. But understanding the pattern should not make you accept emotional whiplash as normal. There is a difference between compassion and self-abandonment. You can understand that someone gets scared after closeness and still admit that their fear is hurting you. You can understand that they learn distance as safety and still refuse to become the person who keeps paying for that lesson. You can understand the wound without volunteering to be the place where it repeats forever. The point of this explanation is not to make you chase them better. It is to help you see that the pullback was not proof that you were foolish for relaxing. It was proof that their system may not know how to remain steady when closeness starts to become real. The anxious person often thinks, if I had stayed more guarded, maybe they would not have pulled away. If I had not gotten too happy, if I had not trusted it, if I had not shown that I cared. But that belief keeps you trapped, because then you start managing your own aliveness to keep someone else comfortable. You start trying to be less warm, less present, less affected, less human. You start thinking the solution is to never relax. But a relationship that only works when you are tense is not safety. A connection that only stays alive while you are guessing is not peace. If your relaxation triggers their distance, the problem is not your relaxation. The problem is that the bond cannot yet hold mutual closeness without one person escaping and the other person spiraling. That is the truth people do not want to say because it hurts. Sometimes the moment they pull away is not random. It is the exact moment the relationship reveals what it can actually carry, not what it can feel like for 2 hours, not what it can look like when desire is high, not what it can promise in a soft moment. What it can actually carry after closeness creates trust. This is why some avoidants create distance after a good stretch. They need to restore the old distance where the bond feels less demanding. They may take longer to reply. They may stop initiating. They may become dry. They may act like work is suddenly overwhelming. They may make vague comments about needing space. They may become strangely critical. They may pick a small issue and make it feel larger. The surface reason can change, but the deeper movement is often the same. Closeness rose. Their fear rose. Distance became the quickest way to feel in control again. Control is a major part of avoidant attachment, not always in a cruel or calculated way. Many avoidants are not sitting there plotting how to hurt you, but they are often deeply attached to the feeling of not being emotionally cornered. They want to feel that they can leave, pause, delay, disappear, or decide later. When you finally relax, the connection may start feeling less like something they can keep floating and more like something that is landing. Landing is scary to someone who trusts exits more than trust. So they pull away to prove to themselves that they are still free. The tragedy is that they may damage the very safety they secretly wanted. They may create the distance that later makes them lonely. They may push away the person whose warmth made them feel alive. They may turn a good bond into a threat because they do not know how to let closeness exist without turning it into a loss of self. This is why you cannot judge the whole bond only by the peak moments. You have to look at what happens after them. The after is where the truth becomes visible. Do they become kinder after closeness or colder? Do they communicate more clearly or less? Do they protect what was built, or do they act like nothing happened? Do they make your nervous system safer, or do they train it to panic after every good thing? That is the part you have to watch, because an avoidant can give you a moment that feels like love and still give you a pattern that feels like abandonment. Both can be true, and when both are true, the pattern is what your body has to live with. Another reason this pullback hurts so much is that it attacks your sense of cause and effect. In a healthy bond, closeness usually creates more safety. You have a good conversation and feel more connected. You spend time together and feel more secure. You open up and the other person handles it with care. Your body learns, when I relax, the bond gets stronger. But with an avoidant pattern, your body may learn the opposite. When I relax, they leave. When I trust, they change. When I stop protecting myself, I get punished. This turns love into a nervous system problem. You are no longer just missing a person. You are trying to solve an unpredictable reward system. That is why you can feel addicted, ashamed, angry, tender, hopeful, and exhausted all at once. Your brain keeps searching for the rule. How do I keep the warmth without triggering the distance? How do I show love without scaring them? How do I receive closeness without making them regret giving it? But the real answer is brutal. You cannot become small enough to make an avoidant person secure. You cannot manage every breath, every word, every softness, every moment of joy to prevent their fear from waking up. If their system interprets normal closeness as danger, your perfection will not fix that. At best, it will make you hypervigilant. It will make you an expert in their moods and a stranger to your own needs. This is why the solution is not to never relax again. The solution is to stop treating your relaxation as the crime. Your ability to soften is not the problem. Your wish for consistency is not the problem. Your body wanting peace after warmth is not too much. The problem is a dynamic where one person's safety activates the other person's escape. That dynamic can only change if the avoidant person becomes aware of it and chooses to respond differently when the fear comes up. Not just when they miss you, not just when they are lonely, not just when they want the good feeling back. When they feel the urge to pull away after closeness, can they pause, name it, and stay respectful? Can they say, "I am feeling overwhelmed, but I do not want to disappear"? Can they take space without making you feel erased? Can they return with clarity instead of pretending nothing happened? Can they understand that their distance has an impact? That is where change begins. Not in the intensity of the good moment, in what they do when their old protection tells them to run. So what do you do with this if you are the person who finally relaxed and then watched them pull away? The practical part is smaller than the explanation, but it matters. First, do not immediately chase the distance as if you caused it. Give yourself enough pause to see the pattern clearly. Second, do not rewrite the closeness as fake just because they got scared afterward. It may have been real, but real does not automatically mean safe. Third, watch the repair, not just the return. If they come back, do they acknowledge the shift, or do they expect you to act grateful that they reappeared? Fourth, stop using the peak moment as the main evidence. Use the after. The after tells you whether this bond can become something your nervous system can trust. And finally, let your own relaxation be information too. If you only feel calm for a few hours before their distance drags you back into fear, that is not a small detail. That is your body telling you what the pattern costs. The deepest truth is this: avoidants often pull away right when you finally relax, because your relaxation means the connection has started to matter in real life, not just in a controlled moment. It means their warmth landed. It means you believed them. It means the bond moved closer to expectation, trust, and emotional consequence. For someone who wants closeness but fears what closeness asks of them, that can feel like too much. But you are not wrong for relaxing. You are not wrong for believing warmth when someone gives it to you. You are not wrong for wanting the person who made you feel safe to stay safe after. The question is not whether their feelings were real in the moment. The question is whether they can remain respectful, present, and honest after the moment. Because love is not proven only by how close someone gets when it feels good. It is proven by what they do when closeness starts to require steadiness. Welcome to PsychBond. You're safe here.